Hello and welcome to the Alpine Sports Cabin, aka my shed in lockdown. I'm delighted to say I'm joined today in the shed by Afeez Kay, who's the co-founder of rideables.org. Afeez, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, so Writables, right? Well, Writables is a think tank organization that represents riders of portable electric transportation in the UK and hopefully around the world.
Excellent. So that fits in very well with the Go Zero goal to be zero emission. So obviously we're more about the cars, but we will be
Yes.
putting various different rideables and micromobility onto our marketplace, like scooters and e-bikes and that side of things. So great to catch up with you. And last time I saw you, we were outside the Houses of Parliament trying to get Boris to legalise and get on with it and get Brexit done. But now yesterday you were at a think tank with the Department of Transport about trials. Tell us a little bit about these trials of electric scooters and what we can expect.
Rideables.org was fortunate enough to be invited to the roundtable with the Department for Transport to discuss the trial of electric scooters, rental electric scooters, and it was quite productive. We were given the policy and the governances around these particular trials, and what they were looking for is just feedback from influencers and framework developers such as eRise.org. And there are some things obviously that still needs to be polished, of course. Things like the speed limit, why the rental was chosen and not the private ownership that's already there already with a lot of experience. So yeah, there is going to be a lot more roundtable, but yeah, we're just fleshing out the details right now.
So for me, obviously I think they're looking to do a 1 year trial of scooters that you can hire. That doesn't go far enough.
No, I don't think it goes far enough. And this was pointed out yesterday by one of the hosts from Department for Transport. This was scheduled for next year, but due to the current pandemic that we're having right now, they had to look for quicker ways to get people around from A to B within London while also obeying social distance. Now, our argument is that if the social distancing and getting people from A to B was the reason why we've turned to this trial, don't we think there is a risk of actually spreading the virus through the sharing, ways of getting from A to B? You want to reduce that sharing, and especially with electric scooters where multiple people could use the same scooters, right? So yeah, exactly. So that was one thing that I made sure that I pointed out, that the sharing industry might not be the best way, right, to go about it right now. just to put it mildly. I don't want to be too, but just to put it mildly, I don't think it's a great idea. But yeah, that's just me.
So I think obviously there's lots of different types of scooters and micromobility options out there that help people get from A to B depending on their distance. Everyone is different on what they need. I've got an E2, which is
Nice.
a great little electric scooter, and a 09, which is a bit more sturdy, better for long distance, a bit quicker. But what if you could just sort of explain what micromobility is and the different vehicles that come into that category of micromobility?
Good question. So this was one of the point that I made clear on the call yesterday during the roundtable, is there seems to be this assumption of people using e-scooters and micromobility interchangeably. So e-scooter is a subset of micromobility. There is this self-balancing electric scooter, or commonly referred to as the electric unicycle EUC. And then there is electric skateboard, some of which are very capable of having 30 miles of range with suspension and bigger wheels to go over bumps and potholes. But in essence, micromobility, or as we refer them to be, portable electric transportation devices, are devices that help you get from A to B, or devices that you can carry with you, or transportation devices that fill in that first and last mile vehicle role. So going to the tube station, come out of the tube station, and then riding it to your next destination. Obviously, all this helps to reduce CO2 and carbon emission. But then, as we were talking offline, if you remember, I said that even that line of first and last mile vehicle is being blurred by the, for example, the electric skateboard or the self-balancing scooter, the EUC electric unicycle, because some of them do have range of about 60 to 70 miles of range. So in essence, this can be a viable means of transportation for most city dwellers in London, in Paris, in Barcelona as well, that it gets to a point where you don't even need a car in a city anymore. I got rid of my BMW because I didn't really need one. So yeah.
Well, I guess that's what Sadiq Khan is trying to implement into London as well, that they don't want congestion, and no one wants congestion. On the safety point of view, where do you think we need to sort that out?
On rideables.org, one of the key things that we set out when we started this organization, we now have a governance and policy. So if you go to the policy section on rideables.org, you will see the policy and how we've tackled the safe aspect, the maximum height and weight and speed and where you're allowed to ride it and where you're not allowed to ride it. The way we believe this should be tackled is adopt the same rules that we have for cyclists right now. In terms of speed, rather than put on-device speed limit, which I believe is dangerous. Can you imagine sharing the road, a 30 miles an hour road with a truck or with a 2-ton vehicle behind you, and you cannot go more than 12.5 miles an hour? It's actually quite dangerous. You feel intimidated, right? So rather than impose on-device speed limit, treat these vehicles with the same rules as we have for cyclists. Obey the on-road speed limit that you're allowed to go on. And if you are seen breaking those on-road speed limits, some roads have 20 miles an hour. I think most inner city roads have got 20 miles an hour anyway. There's some roads that have got about 30 miles an hour, which I wouldn't like going on regardless, because I don't feel safe at that speed. That if you are seen breaking the law, you get on the spot fine. Simple. Keep things simple. I think we are in danger of overcomplicating something that should be seen as a benefit. And we shouldn't be too rigid in our policy and governance approach that we are stifling, or we could be stifling future innovation as well. When you put too much restriction on something, then there's only so much innovation that can come out of it. There's less freedom to be innovative in the future. And that is what rideables.org is trying to, put across and highlight. Yes.
Well, we're with you on that, and the guys at Personal Electric Transport, I know they do fantastic scooters and one wheels and all these different rideable options that you can get. There's also, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be putting various products, sustainable products that we think will help people with their commuting and helping to reduce CO2 emissions onto the GoZero marketplace. So you can download the app and see all that information there. But I guess the last question for you is, what are the next steps? What does the government need to do in order to fast track this, to get it all right, and to get people reducing their commuting time, reducing their CO2 that they're producing by going on public transport, tubes, trains, etc., and driving petrol, diesel, and hybrid cars? What's the next steps in your mind, Afeez?
The next step is, and again, we've been fortunate to be invited to the next roundtable. This is where we delve a little bit deeper into some of the details and challenge some of those policies and governance around e-scooter trial, the current e-scooter trial. After the e-scooter trial, I guess the next step will be to look at how we can roll this out nationwide and make it legal. I believe it shouldn't take that long. And to be fair, most people in London, they are already thinking about getting an electric scooter anyway, or portable electric transportation. We already have people that already own electric scooters and an electric unicycle. So we're not introducing something new. What we're asking for is a reasonable, mature, and future-proof way of looking at the legalization and the policy aspect. So the next step is just crack on with the roundtable, and we will hopefully come out the other end with a better polished policy.
Great. Well, Afeez, thanks for joining us. Great to speak to you as always, and look forward to having a ride out soon once we're out of lockdown. And if you ever need a lift in one of the Go-Zero cars or a ride to work, give us a shout. We'd love to take, because I know you're a big fan of Teslas. What's your favourite of the Tesla models?
Yeah, I think the Model S will always have a special place in my heart. I think that was the vehicle.
The saloon version, the big one.
Yeah, the saloon. Yeah, exactly. The saloon version, the Model S.
It's a bit wide though, because it's easy to curb the old rims on that car, as I found out too painfully and too many times.
It is, and I know that because we drove around Europe. So we went from London to Paris, driving through Munich, and we used a lot of the supercharger network. And on the motorway is amazing. It's so stable. It's so balanced as well. But going in some really tight streets in Paris, it can get pretty much quite dicey and challenging in a way. But that is the one that appeals to me the most, because that's the first car that made it possible for me to know that, listen, this is the next step in transportation. Electrification is possible. But my head tells me it has to be the Model Y. The Model Y, yeah, for me, I'm looking forward to actually buying that myself as my personal vehicle. So get that on your fleet. Get the Model Y on your fleet.
David, Andy, if you're listening, Model Y, that's what we need. But yeah,
it's all about the Model Y.
Those that don't know, the Model Y is like the slightly scaled down version of the Model X, which is the Model X is the 7-seater, the big one, the gold wing doors. You've also got the Model 3, which is just changing the landscape massively, because it's the more affordable, amazing range, amazing tech built into it, like autopilot and all those side of things. But the Y will obviously have that as well. And again, excellent range. So there we go. The Model Y, that's next on the shopping list.
Model Y.
Thanks, Afeez. Good to speak to you, mate.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.